Thank you, Annette. Always such a pleasure. Hello and welcome. My name is Scarlett Trippsmith, and I will be your technical liaison for today. And welcome. This is the Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. You're here virtually. Thank you so much for joining us today. If this is your first time with us today in this congregation, we are so happy that you found us. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat to everyone. We welcome you. We know that you all come from different places, different religions, different backgrounds, but we hope that you can find comfort and connection here. We are committed to fighting for the worth and dignity of every person in our community and out. Together, we can transcend barriers, be they racial, political, economic, or religious. We want to remind ourselves that we must put our words and our principles into action for the justice of the common good. And today, we want to acknowledge and honor that we live on the traditional home of the Wiyot people. We're so glad you're here, joining us in engaging with the work through embracing diversity and empowering those connections. We ask that if you feel comfortable, please keep your cameras turned on so that we can see all of your beautiful faces. And as you can see, you are muted. However, later after the service, we'll have our virtual coffee hour where you'll be able to converse with your fellow community congregants. It's our UU tradition to take part in the sharing of the joys and sorrows that weigh on our hearts. So in this space, may you feel free to share with us and let us hold you. Today, Bonnie MacGregor will be taking our joys and sorrows and celebrations. So if you feel called, please send them to Bonnie MacGregor. And also, if you're feeling up to it, join us this Saturday, May 8th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. here at the Humboldt Unitarian Fellowship in honor of loving the mother. In honor of loving the mother. Join us in a fun, outdoor, socially distanced celebration of spring and ongoing commitment to the Mother Earth, our home. We'll have crafts, hula hooping, croquet on the lawn, music, plus members of Climate Action Campaign and Cooperation Humboldt's food team will be sharing a lot of fun tidbits. So please come on. We welcome you to come participate, and please wear your favorite masks and show up. And yeah, thank you so much for your cooperation in advance. It's because of sermons like today that we can support those directly in our community. Reverend Jamal Tharp will guide us so we can continue to keep that mission of our congregants and our congregation alive. We welcome you and thank you so much for sharing your presence with us today. And now, in this time and in this place, let us worship together. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our worship associate for today, Bonnie MacGregor, for our chalice lighting and aspiration and some opening words. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I finally figured out the technology of being able to see you while I'm also speaking to you. So it really is delightful to see you all here. In many years past, we have on the first Sunday in May celebrated the Festival of Spring because it is May Day, or it was officially yesterday. And Annette's music certainly evokes that spirit, which is quite in alignment with the rest of what the service will be. So we're delighted to have that and know that all of you who love to celebrate this pagan festival will be able to go out in this beautiful day afterwards and do that. And we have also acknowledged in the past another May Day, which is celebrated internationally. Workers in the world gather in solidarity and in recognition of the struggle they worked on together and continue for justice and fairness in the workplace. So we acknowledge that part of the day as well. But today we're turning in a different direction to the wisdom and practices of Sufi Islam during the holy month of Ramadan. Now, Ramadan this year is from sundown April 12th to sundown May 12th. So we are now well into the month, at that time when the practice goes very deep into a time when people seek direct experience of the divine. After weeks of fasting and coming to an acknowledgement in themselves of where they are. And Reverend Jamal will share with us the meaning of that practice later on. This was the time when Muhammad received the opening verses of the Quran, and it's why Ramadan is observed at this time of year. I just want to recognize that we UUs draw on the wisdom from all the world's religions and from what we call the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures. If you're like me, I'm much more ignorant of the teachings and practices of Islam, let alone its history and cultural dimensions. And I must say, in preparation, just for preparing myself for this service and a deeper understanding, I have thoroughly benefited from exploring that more. And I hope this will just be the beginning of us exploring more together as a congregation. And so when we worship leaders received an offering from Reverend Jamal Tharp to provide a sermon, which he has been offering to the wider UU community through the Zoom experiences, about the transformative power of Ramadan, we immediately made an opening in our schedule so that all of us could share in the wisdom and his understanding and experience as what he calls himself a humble Sufi seeker and deep practitioner of this mystic inner path of Islam. He will introduce himself in the recorded sermon. However, for those of you who may be new to the fellowship and don't know, Reverend Tharp and his wife, Michelle, daughter Abby, sons Chris and Alexander, are beloved parts of our congregation and have been for years. So it's truly wonderful to open our hearts to receive from him and to give back our love. So let me finally say, as way of introduction, the mystics are not by definition and intention rational and linear, not in any tradition. They seek to have a direct experience of the divine, and most of their practices have been created in order to open themselves to that experience of the oneness, of the connection in all of life. And so their language and expressions are often more poetic than polemic. And so I'm just so delighted today that Reverend Jamal will give us a taste of his loving understanding in not just his sermon, but we'll all get to experience in the story for all ages that he chose for us, and in the very familiar UU hymns he suggested as being in that same spirit. So let us begin with the lighting of the chalice and sharing and renewing our aspiration. Always the most difficult part of this. Our chalice lighting words I've chosen from the words of Theodore Parker, an early Unitarian transcendentalist minister who influenced widely other people in our history. He says, "Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living." Now let's join together in singing this very familiar hymn. So you know we're muted, so sing with all your heart and voice. Spirit of life, our invocation for today. Oh, Thank you, Scarlett. Before we sing together, let's renew the aspiration that is somewhat of a covenant that we make with one another. So, may love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. Now let's sing. Usually, Scarlett Trippsmith is focused solely on all the tech aspects of providing our Zoom services, which is quite enough for any one person. But this morning, we all thought she would be the perfect one to read our story for all ages. So, as she loves to say, without further ado, Scarlett Trippsmith with The Invisible String.
I do love to say that, don't I? Well, welcome. I wanted to read to you all just a little background about this story. This story, The Invisible String, was born in 1996 when a full-time working single mom was dropping her son off, Elijah, at preschool each morning, and he would cry so hard that it broke her heart. And so it was obvious that the invisible string made its love all the way to always connect us. And in that fact that it would always connect us all day long and forever and ever, no matter what, made him feel more comforted. So there we go. The invisible string. by Patrice, Karst, illustrated by Joanne Lew-Vriethoff. To the children of the world and the magic of their strings. Liza and Jeremy, the twins, were asleep one calm and quiet night. Don't worry, you two. It's just the storm making all the noise. Go back to bed. We want to stay close to you, said Jeremy. We're scared. Mom said, you know we're always together no matter what. But how can we be together when you're out here and we're in bed, said Liza. Mom held something out in front of them and said, this is how. Rubbing their eyes, the twins came closer to see what Mom was holding. I was about your age when my mommy first told me about the invisible string. I don't see a string, said Jeremy. You don't need to see the invisible string. People who love each other are always connected by a very special string made of love. But if you can't see it, how do you know it's there? Asked Liza. Even though you can't see it with your eyes, you can feel it with your heart, and you know that you are always connected to everyone you love. When you're at school and you miss me, love travels all the way along the string until I feel it tug on my heart. And when you tug it right back, we feel it in our hearts, said Jeremy. Does Jasper the cat have an invisible string? Asked Liza. She sure does, said Mom. And best friends like me and Lucy? Asked Liza. Best friends, too. How far can the string reach? Anywhere and everywhere, Mom said. Would it reach me even if I were a submarine captain deep in the ocean? Asked Jeremy. Yes, Mom said, even there. Or a mountain climber? Even there. A dancer in France? Even there. A jungle? Yes, even there. How about an astronaut out in space? Yes, even there. Then Jeremy quietly asked, can my string reach all the way to my Uncle Brian up in heaven? Yes, even there. Does the string go away when you're mad at us? Never, said Mom. Love is stronger than anger, and as long as love is in your heart, the string will always be there. Even when you get older and can't agree about things like what movie to see, or what games to play in the back seat, or what time to go to bed. Oh, that's right, you two should be in bed. And with that, we all laughed as Mom chased the twins back to their beds. Within a few minutes, they were asleep, even though the storm was still making the same loud noises outside. As they slept, they started dreaming of all the invisible strings they have, all the strings their friends have, and their friends have, and their friends have, until everyone in the world was connected by invisible strings. And from deep inside, they now could clearly see. No one is ever alone. And with that, I'd like you to take a moment to contemplate the love invisible strings in your life and send them in the chat to Bonnie MacGregor and see if we can help just give those love energy strings a little bit extra today, because we can, invoking this new spirit and this new presence of this new season. So thank you all for allowing me to read you that story. Send your joys and sorrows to Pat McCutcheon. Thank you.
So we're going to turn those strings and tones into ripples. They all go through that interconnectedness we share. So actually, if you'll send them to Bonnie MacGregor, if you haven't already, I'll read these now. From Stephen, my friends Phil and Lindy are having a hard time as Lindy is in the hospital and has survived a serious surgery. Good thoughts for her healing. And are there any others? Here comes one from Sue Mossman. My invisible strings are connected this week to beloved women in my life whose birthdays would have been this coming month. Beverly Allen, Jean Wagner, and my mother, Sue Elon Lee. One for each of them. Well, I guess I'll read this from Scarlett. My appreciation for Bonnie MacGregor. Thank you, Scarlett. It's mutual, as good reciprocity should be. From Reverend Jamal, who we are so happy is safely back home. We are proud of our daughter, Abby, who will be attending Scripps College in the fall. Way to go, Abby. Well, and as I know, we all hold many thoughts and feelings. Oh, here's one from Ginger and Richard Kossow. We are so glad our oldest son, Rick, and his wife, Susan, are home from a year in New Mexico. Wow. Yes, that's a celebration. And Elizabeth Muro, my invisible strings go back home to my mother, father, and little brother. To your mother, father, and little brother. To Sina, thank you all for the birthday wishes this past week. Yes, there are new birthdays to celebrate, new people to celebrate. This week, you were still in April, if it was last week. Happy birthday, Sina. From Tom Lewis, thoughts for Marissa, my daughter. Here, Tom, this one is for Marissa. May we all hold her with you. From Colleen Broderick, sending my daughter off on a new adventure. This time of connecting to family, it's just so amazing that sometimes we're closer and then people are leaving. It's a very fluid time in some ways. So I believe that's all that I'll read this morning, all that I see. But as we always do, we drop a pebble for all those thoughts and feelings, celebrations and sorrows that we hold in our hearts. And may all the ripples and all the strings connect us. And may we know, as the book said, we are never alone. So our reading this morning is one that Reverend Jamal wrote himself. And it is an opening, along with a hymn we'll sing right after, before we hear his pre-recorded sermon. It's an opening to the imagery and the spiritual wisdom of Sufism to come. And it's some of that poetic language that I mentioned earlier. It's called, O Lovers of Love. O lovers of love, come, let us swim in the waters of this beautiful ocean of love, which is the sacred month of Ramadan. Come, come, let us embrace that fast with joy and gladness. Let us fast from negativity, fast from false voices, and fast from limited thinking and limited beliefs. Come, come, let us empty ourselves. Let us empty ourselves of our limited selves so that we might experience the pain of others as our own, the joys of others as our own, and so that we may see how we are, and so that we may experience that we are but a part of the great web of all existence, the unity of the one. Come, come, let us remember that each and every one of us is a hidden treasure yearning to know ourselves. Let us be light, light upon light. Let us be love, love upon love. A mercy to the world, like our prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Come, come, let us be filled with a dazzling, brilliant, and radiant, luminous darkness, shining more brilliantly than 10 million suns. The radiant light of the Holy Quran, which descends into the very cave of our heart, into the very center of our being, which feeds and nurtures us better than any food. Let us sing together when our heart is in a holy place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. Then our heart is in a holy place. Then our heart is in a holy place.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Jamal Tharp, and I am so grateful to join you and your beloved Unitarian Universalist community this morning. My title for my talk is called The Queen of Months, Ramadan Transforms. I come to Unitarian Universalism as a Sufi, and so I hope to tell you a little bit about Sufism today, and particularly invite you to be inspired by what Ramadan really represents and how we might integrate that into our own lives, enriching our lives together and for our life with ourselves. So anyway, it's such joy to join you from the road. I'm traveling and I'm currently in Georgia. I'm from the northwest coast of California, where the mystic redwoods meet the majestic Pacific Ocean. It is the land of the Yurok, the Karuk, and the Wiyot people. It's their skies and that I breathe under when I'm at home, and it's by their waters that I reside. So thank you to your Universalist faith tradition again for being so immensely open to look for inspiration in so many places. This too is what we read in the Holy Quran about looking for the signs of what the universe has to offer us and speaking directly to us. So in this sacred way we begin together. I want to just say that I speak from my own authority, personally, and as a practicing Sufi, a humble seeker on the quest for the divine mystery and all that is. So I give thanks to my Sufi teachers, Dr. Ibrahim Farajajeh, peace and blessings be upon him, and may his teachings and memory be a blessing to us all. I also give thanks to his son, my Sufi teacher currently, Baba Isa Shisti, and may his teachings be a blessing. So I begin with an open heart and and from where you are, I invite you to maybe pause if you'd like, close your eyes, place your hands upon your heart, take a relaxed, slow, mindful breath, and then I invite you to take another, and please, another, and continue to keep taking mindful breaths. Let us all remember through our conscious breathing that all are welcome here. Let us gather today in our hearts and in our imaginations, the root of prayer. Join me in addressing the great mystery as the most tenderly compassionate and most merciful one. Let us humbly ask permission for our gathering here now. From the people indigenous to our lands that we reside upon, each and every one of us, by whose waters we dwell and under whose skies in which we find ourselves breathing. Let us call upon all the trees, the mountains, the valleys, the waters, animals, even the rocks and the plants, for their permission to be here and for their sharing of their deep wisdom. Let us remember to ask permission wherever we might find ourselves from God's creation. Let us call upon all of those who have gone before us, bring our attention to them, our ancestors, and let us ask them to remind us today and every day in our lives, of the crucial importance of our engaging in the work to educate, to counter oppression, and to build just and sustainable communities. Amen. Ooh. So you may hear me sounding like an owl, but it is a practice in the Sufi tradition, and Hu represents the Creator, the Great Mystery, and it's particularly powerful because it's actually a pronoun of the Creator, which is beyond pronoun, really. So it just represents a very gender fluid, non-binary aspect of creation and love, and what we call in Islam Allah. So the Queen of Months, Ramadan, is upon us, and we all have something to learn from her. Ramadan is a period of time in which we Muslims devote in spiritual practice and self-reflection. We do so in practices of many kinds, many that bring that embodied remembrance of our invisible strings of love that bind us together. We go deep in self-reflection and self-reevaluation during these practices. It may seem foreboding, overwhelming task, but it really isn't. It's actually quite an emancipatory experience. So I don't want you to feel like this is too much work. It's the good work, this remembrance. So we seek to remove our own internal obstacles, our limiting thoughts, our limiting feelings, our beliefs. This idea that we are always together, never separate in our heart, no matter what. I mean, let's face it, that's tough. That's a hard thing for us as we're having our experience living to remember always. So in Sufism, if you're not familiar, it's the mystic inner path of Islam, and it is transmitted often through storytelling and through the oral sharing of teachings by through the lineages of teachers that extend all the way back 1500 years ago to the Prophet Muhammad. Upon him may there be peace and blessings. It is a path of experience. It is a path of storytelling. Sufism is a path of learning. It is a path of coming to know our true self, who we truly are, so that we may recognize what Sufis call the divine reality, with the capital R. So the Sufi path is rich in tools, it's rich in teachings, and it's rich in guidance, among which one is storytelling, and one of the methods of teaching and guidance, among which I've had the pleasure of hearing stories and learning from Dr. Ibrahim Farajajeh, peace and blessings be upon him. And so I hope to share some of what I have learned from him today, about what I have learned in Sufism when we talk about the external and the internal meaning of everything. It's important for us to listen to the words of Imam Ali, the son-in-law of the Prophet, who says in relation to the Quran does not speak, people do. People do. So I hope to speak well today through my own understanding. So how did Ramadan come to us? In the time and context to which the Prophet came, gross social inequities and injustices existed and were considered to be the normative for the people of the time. this is indeed like the times in which we find ourselves today, living. The transformation that Muhammad begins 1,500 years ago is rooted in the experience of fasting and prayer, mindfulness practice. This continual prayer remembrance practice known as zikr. So zikr is a practice of chanting, and often chanting the different names, 99 different attributes of Allah, that we hope to embody and bring through our vessel of our being, through our expression in our way, in our living. And so it's a mindfulness practice that brings us into the awareness of that reality of the capital R, of the unity of one, something that we in Unitarian Universalism, we think of as our seventh principle. So, one of the blessings, and it's just one, but I think it's one that we often, as non-Muslims, think of when we think of Ramadan, is the blessing of fasting. But it's just one. I'll speak about it briefly. It's the intention to live in harmony with our bodies and with the earth. And fasting helps us restore our bodies. So there are these real nutritious, invigorating, healing aspects to fasting that restores the balance between ourselves, within ourselves, and with all of creation. So there's this ecological green aspect to fasting, because we think, we're mindful about not being exploitive or wasteful of the resources that we're using. Fasting allows our bodies to recoup, to retreat, to re-energize. So it's with this intention of bringing our own consciousness to a new level of understanding this concept of the reality of the unity of the one. So we look to Ramadan to forge this deeper and wider justice, deeper and wider access to community, beloved, inclusive community. And this is really the juicy part of Ramadan. We come together at the end of the day, often with our family and our friends and community, to break the fast, something we call iftar. And it's this time that we've been spending with the intention to fast from our limited thinking, our limited feelings and beliefs. And so in this personal sacred journey, this introspection for our own well-being and also for the well-being of others, it's quite the endeavor. And so when we break our fast and we come together, it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing to share the peace, share the food, and share the stories. So the Queen of Month beckons us. She beckons us and she says, is there room in our seeking for not knowing? Is there space in our quest for unknowing? Think about that in our search. Is there space in our quest for unlearning, for dropping how we have come to basically cram this magnificent, wondrous world of seen and unseen realities into boxes of small, frail, and fragile understanding? The last 10 nights of Ramadan I want to tell you about, because they're very special, and they're about this not knowing, this humble way in which we bring ourselves to Ramadan. It is the sitting with a mystery. And we look particularly for this mystery in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. We don't know when this particular mystic opening of the heart will occur for us. And so it's hidden, and we call it the night of power. So it's on the night of power. So the story goes that Archangel Gabriel came to the Prophet Muhammad in the cave on Mount Hira as he was retreating and meditating as a very righteous person that he was in his annual practice for 30 days. Angel Gabriel came to the prophet and he said to him, read. But the funny thing is that the prophet did not read. He was illiterate. He was well respected in his community. He was a bridger of many cultures. He worked in the trade, traveling. He knew many languages, but he did not know how to read. Angel Gabriel said again, read, and nothing. Confused, I imagine, befuddled, I see, I feel even. I feel because I myself have had a brain injury, and learning to read again wasn't easy. Learning to share again wasn't easy. So can you only imagine? Our Creator says, read. And Muhammad opened his heart to that message, and it began to flow. Those first beginning of the revelation of the Holy Quran, the first 7 verses in the Holy Quran, those mystical words that we call the Al-Fatiha, the opening, that holds the whole meaning of the Holy Quran, came to Muhammad within his heart. So in Sufism, we see that it is important for us to commemorate not only this day, not only as the moment of revelation of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad, but as a pathway for our own seeking, a most real understanding of what this connection means, what this revelation really means. What this really means is for us to realize it within our own being. The cave of which the prophet received this revelation is none other for us, as my teacher Isa Baba would say, than the cave of our own heart. So, this divine revelation, this invitation to read, to experience, to trust our intuition, to trust the way in which we make meaning. What are we reading? We are reading the book of ourselves. We are reading us, that which is within our own heart. And on the night of power, we are invited to read. We are invited to open. And this book of which we speak on this night is the reading of our own being. When we say the reading of our own being, it means the reading of the oneness of the divine as it manifests through each and every aspect of creation, each aspect of everything that surrounds us. It is manifesting in each thing. Think about that. And it manifests within us. There is this beauty in the sharing of breaking a fast, what is called iftar with community, family and friends, for it is this community together in these spaces, even online, that are of building beloved community, of building inclusive sacred spaces. There's something beautiful in this, the gathering and fellowship like we are doing today together. And there's something beautiful in breaking this fast, this practice of mindfulness, of the unity of one, and then to share our stories. So I want to talk about something, the root of the word iftar. It means rupture. And we tend to interpret rupture as a division, a separation. And I invite us to understand that this rupture is not that which creates separation. It is the rupture of, it is the breaking apart of false notions. And it is reality with a capital R. That moment of coming together, of embodying the radical unity that is most perfectly and most beautifully manifested in each and every being. I want to share these words, this prayer from Dr. Ibrahim Farajajeh on this sacred idea of iftar as rupture in Ramadan. Let me read this for you. Like the cardamom seed, I take refuge in love from negativity, in remembrance of the reality of our oneness, that manifest merciful one and tenderly compassionate one. Come, let us plunge into the ocean of the oneness of all being. Come, the cardamom seed in our hearts yearns to be broken open, to release its fragrance for the healing of the world. Yes, yes, we are all servants on the path of love. May we all be protected from fragmentation. Amen. In closing, let us remember that revelation is not sealed. Reality-changing insights remain not just probable, not just possible, but probable. This is being human, and it is a co-creative, inherently a co-creative process towards our wholeness making. I think we often forget this, that we are inherently co-creative beings, and that it is our inherent nature to seek wholeness making, to make meaning, to share our stories, and to be in covenant with one another. Revelation is not sealed. This is our journey of our faith and Unitarian Universalism. Amen. Thank you.
I thank Reverend Jamal so much for offering this. It has touched me deeply, and I'm very grateful. It's interesting to go into our time of offering after his lesson to us. What it brought up in me as I thought about inviting all of us to share in our offering is I wonder, after reflecting, what are my reactions when I know that it's time for the offering? Does my heart open, or do I find myself sort of deflecting the importance of it, because it happens all the time and I know we need to give our offering? And as I saw that reaction in myself, I thought, well, here we are in Ramadan. What a wonderful time to look at that. Where's that coming from? You know, is it possible that I can be generous in spirit no matter what amount I feel I'm able to give? And what stands in the way of my doing that? So when we have an answer, you know, for those who are adept at using the mechanisms that Scarlett will put up on the screen, and you get an answer, then, you know, use that. But for the rest of us who are still sending our checks or taking them to the fellowship, you know, it's a wonderful time to reflect on that. And so I invite us all, and I include myself in this, to open our hearts and graciously give what we can to this extraordinary community of which we're a part, both within our congregation and beyond. And may we do that as we listen to Annette's extraordinary version of this English folk song.
So let us go on in our days. Let us go on with this day and in our life. And let us remember that we all have the absolute right to reach out without holding back toward that which we care about the very most. More than anything, whatever that might be to us, whether that is God, Allah, Hashim, unconditional love, the indestructible essence of goodness in the world. However we reach from that cave of our heart, it is in the act of offering our hearts in our faith that something in us transforms, it takes flight, and it becomes more whole. So let us be brave. Let us have courage. Let us go and seek a revelation. Let us seek a vision. Let us seek a deeper understanding that takes us beyond our own limitations. Be well, be good. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you would like to change your view to gallery view so we can see everybody's faces, join me in singing Go From Here in Peace today. Thank you so much to Reverend Jamal Tharp for bringing us into this awesome month of May, getting it off with a rad start and opening our hearts to all the possibilities. So if you want to reach your hands across your screen, or if you have somebody there with you, touch their hands and sing with me Go From Here in Peace, piano by our lovely Annette. Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love. In love, go in peace. Shalom, salam alaikum, blessed be, ashe, aho, namaste. Please stick around for our virtual coffee hour and dance party. Remember to stay home, stay safe, and stay connected, or go outside and have some fresh air, all that fun jazz. And you now have the power to unmute yourselves. Bonnie, did we still want to do breakout rooms, or how are we feeling?
Well, I think let's stay together.
Yeah,
There are just 23 of us, and
sounds good. Thank you so much, Jamal. I'm sure if anyone else has any comments, please feel free to share now.
I'd like to thank everyone. I tried to send a message to chat and I haven't quite figured out my computer how to do that. It looks simple, but I just want to thank everyone and Jamal for reminding me. That's all. Nice to see you again. I haven't seen you in many years.
It's good to see you too, Paula. It's really great to see you. I was really happy to see your name, and I thought the same. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Good to see everybody.